We have to take solace in the fact that if they had the overwhelming power that we fear they have, then they'd simply have enforced it by now. As has been the case throughout their control, we are many, they are few, and so they have to invoke tactics to make us do whatever it is they want, voluntarily. Evidence seems to show that forecasts of targets they'd given themselves have been severely hampered, where specific goals promised have not been reached, and the infamous Agenda 2030 has been modified to reflect this. They seem to also be restricted by a sinister set of morals, which have to be adhered to, in order to validate their implementation. The deviousness of this cold-hearted cabal has been evidenced throughout our known history, and obviously they'll have had intricate plans for dealing with any dissent. They probably wouldn't be able to calculate the proportion of humanity who'd get what was happening, and to what degree each section would see it, but one main diversionary tactic would be crucial. The phenomenon of what's called the stand-down ploy has been riddled throughout the media, both mainstream and alternative. What this is a tactic whereby a section of the awakened people who see the criminality have been duped into thinking that a section of elites from the capitalist system have everything under control. These commentators and presenters have mysteriously been allowed a voice of dissent against authority, with professional productions presenting a face of challenge, where in reality they've simply been placed there to lead as many truth-seekers away as possible, in effect, to stand down, as these characters have this under control. Among these are medical commentators who previously pushed the bioweapons, but have now, apparently, seen the light. This is known as selling hopium. The cast includes the likes of Russell Brand, Joe Rogan and Charlie Ward, in so-called journalistic productions, and mostly Donald Trump, in the political field. A mass audience has been allowed to these state assets, where things like medbeds and the so-called quantum financial system are all waiting in the wings to be rolled out to us. Those touting Trump and the enigmatic Q shadow cabinet ignore the fact that Trump has held this post before and didn't honor any of his promises, and also ignore multiple references by him promoting these bioweapon injections. Our natural instinct is one of trust, which is the main weapon used by them against us, and so our natural disposition to give people the benefit of the doubt often works against us. This makes the task of identifying any true rebels, as opposed to placed assets, extremely difficult, and largely we have to use intuition, accompanied with a degree of logic, to ascertain how genuine any potential soldier to the cause is. As the truth is deleted and rewritten, we can take the principles listed in 1984 to point us in the right direction when searching online. Truth is lies, and lies are truth. So that when something is emphatically stated as debunked, or a conspiracy theory, then we know it's true. As with the elders of Zion, the Kalergi plan seems to be coming to fruition. Creator of the Pan-European Union Count Kalergi made references in the 1930s to a forecast of the demise of the white race, and whereas the official narrative is to say it's false and anti-Semitic, how many times do we hear that? We simply have to look at the world around us. If I'm speaking for myself, it makes absolutely no difference to me whether a person's black, white, gay, straight, I really couldn't care less, but apparently the feeling of most people is to identify strongly, and bond with those who mirror your cultural identity, something which has been reinforced, largely by religion. The largest cultural presence in the major cities of the world could be described as white European, and so anyone wishing to control international societies would see this demographic as a potential obstacle. Ask yourself how you feel when in popular culture a Jewish character says they don't want their son or daughter to get involved with a Gentile. We're expected to just accept it as normal, and the same would be true for a Muslim or Catholic family. Yet if a character said they wouldn't want their son or daughter involved with a non-white, there'd be uproar. This is a deliberate policy to dilute all the races, but with a focus on that large demographic. It can't have escaped any but the most gullible and naive of us, that popular culture has been polluted with characters wholly out of place, where traditionally a male character is portrayed as a woman, or gay, or most often where a black actor portrays one that more properly should be white. Probably the most blatant example in recent times is the film Wicked Little Letters, where even though the story is set in an English South Coast town, following the First World War, the majority of the characters are culturally diverse, with the most ridiculous one being the judge who was black. This then feeds into this insane narrative, accepted by the woke masses, where their subconscious guilt, fed to them over generations, forces them to meekly accept this faux liberal absurdity. Countries across the world are being flooded with fighting-aged young men, brought in under the guise of being refugees. In just the last few years, cities across the world that were typically white English, German or French, are now a cultural swarm, where traditionally white people are becoming the minority, and this is intentional. Not only is the Kulurgi plan emerging at pace, but this rabble army could be utilized by the cult for general mayhem. Many people see them as potential UN soldiers, although certain awake military professionals doubt this, having said that these untrained renegades couldn't control a mass population, but we should rightly be wary of this disturbing development. Whether or not you choose to believe the following information is entirely up to you, but I'll state which chess pieces have been moved and where. We have the WEF, who represent the official face of the cult, controlling all aspects of government, issuing orders to the institutions of law, health, education and the media. They've convinced a gullible population to inject themselves with a bioweapon that can kill or control them, and is taking a massive toll even as we speak. Gullible technical institutions have erected 5G towers that will be pivotal in this control and genocide, and our skies have been sprayed by forces personnel that poison the air, water, and the entire farming and food chain and block the sun's natural light. Foodstuffs have been supplanted by synthetic additives that have no nutritional value and degrade the human body, weakening an already vulnerable population deprived of natural healing, and poisoned with synthetic toxins over generations, including carcinogens and toxins in our crops and water. Racism has been covertly promoted by the cult as a major tool of division, and our entire culture has been fed a ridiculous pantomime to confuse and divide us, where men can become pregnant, transgenderism is as natural as having red hair, and toddlers should be sexualized. Much of this twisted agenda has sinister connections with Satanism, and its various symbology and ritual, and whether you believe in it or not is irrelevant, because they do. Whether I've been in a phase of atheism, agnosticism or spirituality, I've never understood religion. I think at its most simplistic, you either believe in a creator or you don't, and the variations on a theme are quite simply control tactics. I'm willing to bet that there aren't many of us who can itemize the tenets of faiths such as Jehovah's Witnesses, Presbyterians, Baptists, Unitarians. The list goes on, and the real questions are, why are certain biblical passages revered, and what purpose do they serve? The obvious main purpose is division, where apart from the manufactured demarcation lines of nations, religion can also be used as a tool of conflict even within those nations. This rivalry aspect is extended into even recreational aspects of society, where it's taken for granted that each sports team has a hated opponent. However, Catholicism, Islam and Judaism seem to be pivotal in the international arena of this control. All three have sinister aspects to them, where they promote pedophilia in their teachings, with the Catholic Church possibly the most prolific in their satanic and pedophilic symbolism. Many people are unaware that among all the nations of which they are aware, there are three that they likely aren't: the City of London, Washington, D.C., and the Vatican City. London controls the money, Washington controls political policy, and the Vatican controls our souls. There are numerous tracts on the supposed history of Catholicism, along with every other controlling section of society, that itemize historical lineage going back through the centuries. For my own part, I give little or no credence to this. As has been mentioned, I don't believe our plastic era goes back any further than the late 18th century, and any references prior to that are either twisted versions from the old world, or outright fabrications. Whatever the truth is, however, be in no doubt, the Catholic Church is the Church of Satan. One of the most controversial aspects in all of this is naming and shaming particular sections of society, not only complicit in this control agenda, but actually seemingly devising it. We have to invoke the J word, and putting it in that way hints at the power of propaganda and indoctrination. It has to be faced that a section of the world's community, who officially represent only about 0.2% of the world's population, actually control the world almost exclusively. Even though this fact is officially recognized, it is just as firmly shut down. First, though, let's look at the issue and identify who the villains are. The most evil people on earth have formed themselves into an exclusive central sect, within what they've identified as Judaism, and enlisted millions more to join Judaism without being allowed to be part of that central sect. This has the power that anyone wanting to remove that central sect has to first penetrate the millions-strong guards they've enlisted to surround them, sweetened with the promise that they are special, and all part of the same chosen people. In this way, it has to be seen that simply labeling someone as Jewish, and therefore complicit in tyranny, is inaccurate, and probably an easier way to see this is specifically identifying this central sect within it as the Cabal. It must be addressed that certain aspects of Judaism are evil. Let's not beat about the bush on this. Most of the Jewish teachings repeat the message that anyone not Jewish is subhuman, and all of us non-Jews are called Gentiles, with the mocking term given by Jews to us being the Goyim, or Goy, a cattle-related reference, where a Jew is allowed to steal from, torture or even murder any Goy. Their written religious texts promise each Jew thousands of us subhuman slaves, and so anyone claiming to be Jewish and proud of it needs to address this. How this blatant racism and supremacist narrative can be totally ignored, even though buried by a Jewish-controlled world, quite frankly amazes me. The terms used in justifying this malicious intent on the rest of humanity are ridiculous in themselves. Part of the protection the Cabal have implemented is to ensure that Jews are perpetual victims, having been exiled from literally hundreds of countries, even according to the official narrative, and have even created the specific term anti-Semitic for any perceived criticism of them. A Semite is someone from the general Palestinian area, and as Judaism is more of a club than a religion or race, the majority of Jews aren't even Semites. The Cabal have their tentacles in every branch of international society, with Jewish lobbies controlling all aspects of foreign, and even domestic policies of all nations through weak and corrupted politicians, all controlled ostensibly by the WEF. This then seems to point to a smoking gun regarding the origins of the 19th century literature threatening us, and has to have connections to whoever or whatever is responsible for this worldwide takeover of humanity, and their ultimate goal,